Okay, and we are now live. So let's see here. Let me make sure that we are live on my personal page before we get rocking. Yes, okay, we're live. So I'm so excited. Okay, I am here with my friend Rachelle, and I invited her today to join me in this little webinar kind of format because I wanted to be able to stream our conversation, plus also share what was life-changing for her. So this is Rachelle. She actually makes fabulous derby hats, by the way. So if you guys remember the really nice derby hat that I had, the white one last year, she made this hat. Absolutely love it. And most of you know that I'm a board member of the Fashion Group International. And Rachelle is a member of that as well. A few months ago, was it back in February or April? I don't remember what month it was.
It's February, I think.
Okay. So back in February, I did a presentation about what I do, you know, and a lot of it has to do with behaviors and weight loss and and how it relates. So I saw her in February. I think it was April. I saw her again, and I noticed that she had lost some weight, and she had come up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, did you notice?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, of course I did." So I wanted to share this with you, my friends, because I tell you this is that it's all about action and implementation, but it also is about being open to new advice. I think the thing that people get stuck in all the time is, I know what to do, I just got to do it. And it's like, but are you sure? You know, are you really sure? So I want Rachelle to share a little bit about what you did after. And my gosh, your weight loss now was what, 38 pounds or
38 pounds.
It's insanely crazy good, which is, do you hear that burp? Oh my God, really?
That was a celebratory burp for me, yes, and I appreciate that.
My goodness. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you a little bit. And so I guess I would love for you to just share your experience, what it was that really resonated with you. I remember that night you came up to me and you were just like, I really needed to hear this. Oh, by the way, participants, I want to let you know that because I have this streaming through Zoom onto Facebook, I cannot see your comments. So if you're commenting, questioning, anything like that, we'll get to those after the fact. So anyway, sorry about that, but carry on. So when I was up talking, I remember you were in very front. And I remember you were just so engaged and something struck a chord. And I want to hear your experience and how, you know, what it was with you that really made you take the leap of change.
Well, I'll tell you, Kelly, first of all, you're very beautiful. And I thought, okay, here's another pretty girl here to tell me and everyone else how to be fabulous and how to lose weight. And I thought, great. But you are such a real person that you're just so beautiful, but you're so real. And that was what hit me. And you had a flow chart, and I thought, great, a flow chart. But what resonated with me was that in the flow chart, there was a dip. And I saw that dip because we all experience, we lose that initial weight and then we're stuck. Yep. And then we think, okay, no, forget it. It's not worth it. We can't do it. But what I did is you said, think about where you're at. Do you see that goal? The goal is there if you just keep focusing. Yeah. And what I did that night is I went home and I thought about, okay, here I am at the bottom of that hole. And I thought, okay, I'm starting to turn back. I don't think I want to go on. And I thought about what are my goals? And I think what you taught me was how to recognize your own importance. Mm-hmm. When you're at the bottom of that, you recognize your own importance. Yeah. Are you important enough to move forward? And I think that's what I took away from it, was what is important. And I thought to myself, you know, it's about being conscious about the subconscious, because subconsciously I was thinking, it just won't matter anyway. I'm at that age. Whatever, people should just like me for who I am, blah, 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 which is all true. But I wanted more for myself. I knew what I could be, but I just couldn't see that light because I wasn't allowing myself to focus on that goal.
Mm-hmm.
And by you saying when you're at the bottom there, you have two choices. You're already halfway there. You can go back or you can go forward. And you kind of gave that speech of how much do you really love yourself?
Yeah.
And it was, and when you focus on your own importance, that's a scary thing to do. I think, especially as women, or if you're like me, which I think most women are, type A, neurotic types, we're worrying about everybody else except ourselves. Well, you made it okay as a mommy, as you're holding your baby right now and you're multitasking. I thought, this is a real person. It's me. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Okay, but where am I going to be?
Yeah.
But it was showing the slump, actually seeing it the way you described it, made me realize I have to focus on my own importance.
Yes.
And because of that, it wasn't just that I lost weight. My blood pressure went from 198 to 148, and now my blood pressure is 110/80, in addition to the lost 38 pounds, all because I said, I'm important. Because you said, hey, I get it. You're toggling all this stuff. And I saw you doing all that. You weren't just like, oh, I can do this, and oh, I'm this and that. You're like, listen, this sucks. This sucks. But if you don't do it, you really don't have a choice.
Right.
And you are like a champion for all women, I think, because you made a difference in my life, and I'm not an easy one to convince to do anything.
Well, that means a lot. That is like, that means so much. And that's one of the biggest things. I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and she says, you know what? She says, I don't think you realize that what you're doing also is you are empowering women to make decisions also for themselves. And I guess that word resonates a lot with a lot of people, because you know how I talk about the success side, which you guys, I'm going to show you what she's referring to, because some people are visual. Clearly, Rachelle was visual, and it really resonated with her. And so I'm going to share this chart with you. But it's really about, at the end of the day, helping people to recognize, like you said, your worth, your importance, and the fact that it's almost like people need permission. So sometimes people will say to me, well, I need to talk to my husband. For what? Is he going to say, no, I don't want you to lose weight? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that. Like, I can't wrap my brain around that. Now, not to go off on a soapbox on that, but that right there is a powerless decision that they are making. They're basically saying, I don't have the power to make my own decisions. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that, and I got to step over here for 1 second. Ayana, really? You got such great timing here. And I understand that, some people like to make their decisions together and this and that, but it just is mind-blowing to me when somebody gets to that point in their life where they allow other people, other influences, other friends, family members to dictate what choices they make, and so I like to feel, that, okay, with what I'm doing is not just the weight loss. It's changing pretty, like more than that. Like you said, it's helped your blood pressure, all of these things, which is super great. So, isn't that interesting how I always say, always have your glasses on, ready to receive the information that is meant for you.
Exactly.
And if you were the one person that just needed to hear that message that night, maybe that whole entire presentation was just meant for you. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I'm so glad that you were willing to receive, and that's the problem where a lot of people, they're not willing to receive. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up the slide that you were talking about. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see.
And this is why I like you, by the way, because you're multitasking with baby, doing bottles and everything else. And it's like, this is why you're effective, because you're doing it all. And I'm like, okay, you can still do it all. Have the child that needs the bottle, still be fabulous, and do all this. And that's what women need to see.
Well,
they need to see real time, real life. And that's why you're effective.
Well, cool. I appreciate that. I really, really do. Oh, I didn't go down there that much. Okay. So here it is, you guys. I feel like I'm not getting there we go. Okay. So this is the chart that she is talking about. This is actually a slide, you guys, that I use in my presentation a few months ago for my Get Off the Diet Wagon. So this is called the emotional cycle of change. And I did not create this. I did not make this up. This is something that I had learned about from this book called The 12-Week Year. Now, if you are somebody that's a procrastinator and you're not somebody that doesn't, if you have a hard time taking action, The 12-Week Year is a really good book for you to get. You can also get in the audio form, so just a little nugget of information. So this is where most people live, right here on this side of the curve. And this is what she was talking about. She was basically saying that she can probably get herself here, but actually walking through the valley of despair, which is that hallway of discomfort, to actually get over here is what she saw. So let me just explain this and what this all means. So this is phase 1, which is called the uninformed optimism. And what that means is, I'm starting Monday. I'm so excited. I got a new plan and I am all in, right? And you don't see any negatives. You don't see any discomforts. All you see is the new you, but you don't see the gap that's in between and the journey and the process and the time and the patience and the blood, sweat, and the tears and all of that. But you get so excited to be here. This is what I also call the dopamine hit. We have receptors in our brain that's like want, 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 want. And we're constantly looking to have that feeling, that excitement of I'm starting something new. So that's it. This is a very dangerous thing. I know for me, I find myself, my brain saying, well, maybe I should do that. And then like I'll say to my coach, like I'll bounce it off my coach and she'll say, you're just looking for a dopamine hit. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It's not going to get me where I need to be. It's just going to give me that little gratification or that little instant feel good so that I feel better. And that's why most people do that. They live here. So then what happens is maybe after a couple of weeks or so, this is where you get to the phase 2, which is where it's informed pessimism. And this is like you start questioning, is this really worth it? Do I really want to do this? People should love me for who I am. Like all these stories that we have created in our mind, our subconscious mind. And Rachelle, right on by saying the fact that your conscious became in alignment with the subconscious, meaning that they started together, but you also recognize how it was pulling you back. Because those stories, those thoughts, beliefs, and those things that were created, God only knows when they were formed. But that's why I'm an NLP coach, so that I could help people also recognize these thoughts that pull you back. And that's what was happening to her. So this is when you start questioning, is it really worth it? This is like, I have the rule book of restriction, where it's kind of like you have your rule book and you're restricting yourself so much, but and that's why meal plans and things like that, I'm not an advocate of it. They don't work. Because if you are putting yourself in this box, you're going to feel that way. And then you're going to start feeling like you're missing out. And all of these feelings of resentment start coming forward. And that gives you the ammunition to say, forget this. I'm turning back around. I'm going to make a U-turn and I'm going to go over here. Now, you might get through down here, which is what she was saying. She is down here. She gets there. And then she goes right back up here. And so many of us live here for our entire life. I lived there for half of my life, which is absolutely mind-blowing when we think about it. Now, here's the thing, you guys, this isn't just with your diet. This is with everything in life. This could be a job. This could be a relationship. This could be anything. This could be a business that you're trying to launch. You get here, it gets uncomfortable. Trust me, as an entrepreneur, I understand. Rachelle's an entrepreneur as well. We've gone through many uncomfortable hallways and we're going to go through more.
Exactly.
That's the name of the game, but having awareness of this helps you to understand and recognize that you are going to go through this. If you understand that this exists, then you can have a conversation with yourself and say, oh, this is when I normally give up. Oh, I'm kind of addicted to starting over. That's a habit loop in itself. Oh, here's that uncomfortable hallway. Now, when you walk through the valley of despair, which is the decision that Rachelle decided to make, she knew that it was going to be uncomfortable. She knew she had hard work to put in. She knew she had to make some changes, which I'm going to ask you what changes you made as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew that this was going to get uncomfortable, but she saw this. She saw that once you get through this phase, that you're on what I call the success side, that you're on the side of where your state of mind changes. Everything changes. And when you get on that side, that's when you're like, I can do anything. I can do anything. I just went through that. I can do it. Right?
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. And when I got to the bottom of that, to make it through that loop, you really had to have, or for me, I had to have a really honest conversation about why am I stuck there? And it being focusing on my own importance. Yeah, you can do your business and do all those types of things, but I was really great at making other people feel great. And then when I was at the end of the day, I thought of myself, I thought, no, maybe not today. Maybe not today. But then I kept thinking about your words like, okay, are you going to go back? And I see your face like, are you going to do it? Are you going to go back? You're not going to go back this time, are you? And I thought, okay, let me write it down. And it's an emotional process. And you have to do that because the unconscious part is the psychological part that you're not addressing. That's what caused me to always go back to the start of the loop, is that there were psychological things that you have to say, okay, I have anxiety, I have issues with food. What are you going to address with that? How are you going to have the honest conversation with yourself? And getting through that, once you decide that you're not going to stay in the bottom and make that curve up, you're dealing with a lot of personal demons, but then you're saying, not today, not today.
Yeah.
You're going to get through that and you're going to say, not today, because I see the light.
Yeah.
You get through that demon pit. And then as you start to climb, you start to go, okay, that was real. That was awful, but I see what I can be. Yeah. And your life starts to change. And it's almost like another sort of euphoric feeling because, you know, people respond to you differently. Oh, you look great. And then that makes you feel great. Or when I go to the doctor and she said, oh, your blood pressure is 110/80. First, she said my weight at 148. And I thought, oh, well, yeah, my blood pressure's down. She's like, no, that's your weight. You have lost 38 pounds. And I said, you're kidding me. And that is when I realized that all the hard work had paid off. And I think it takes real people like you giving that message, toggling the babies, running errands, doing all that, because that's what we are every day. Mm-hmm. We're toggling 20 balls in the air, making everybody's lives great. But if we don't take time for ourselves, we are the wheel that holds it all together.
Yeah. No, it's so
yeah.
And most of us will take this, well, I'm too busy. And they wear the busy badge. Like it's a badge of honor. I'm busy. Okay. Well, until you decide to make the change and put yourself in a priority as well, keep on wearing that busy badge. You'll know where to find me. You know.
Well, you have to make yourself a priority, and you have to have that conversation with yourself when you're in that pit. Yes. You have to decide, because you know what happened too is I woke up and I said, oh yeah, tomorrow I'm 49 years old. Okay, that's not old, but you only get so many chances to go through that loop before the doctor will say, or your life will start to break down, or you'll have to have this go on, that you have to actually say, you're not going to get a lot of chances to go back up that hill.
Yeah.
Now's the time to make that change, because you're going through our, life cycle changes. Right. And I thought, you know what? I want to be healthy in that. I don't want to be the person on medicine to stay healthy. I don't want to have to rely on a pill. I want to be able to play with my grandchildren. I want to be able to have a successful business. I want to be able to enjoy my friends and family. And when I saw that, and I saw that goal starting to become a reality, you still will toggle with demons from time to time. I'm not saying, oh yes, it's you still toggle with that, because I think, especially, and there are men too, don't get me wrong, we all struggle with things in the back of our mind where it starts to creep up, or that negative self-talk.
It always
You
comes
have
up.
to,
Yep.
you have to remember, and sometimes if you have to write it down, like you said, Kelly, I'm a visual person, so seeing your chart was helpful. So I make a list. When I feel like I could go back down the rabbit hole, I look at my list and say, is that where you want to be?
Yeah.
And when I make that conscious choice, to say, no, I'm not going to go there again, then I stay on the path. But you have to remind yourself, it's not once you get there, it's you have to maintain yourself at that point.
Yes.
You have to remind yourself that maybe it's a bad day, but not a bad life. It's, you have to, and it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think as women, we struggle with that a lot.
Exactly, because people believe the thought that they
Correct.
hear, and they run with it. They're like, oh, okay, I guess I better listen to that thought, and that's when they make the U-turn. Another thing that my friend had said in the conversation, we were talking about, and not to make this about me in any way, but it was an interesting statement that she said, and this will apply to you as well, is I had gone through this last year, a lot of education. And she says, we have to remember that when we do all of this education and we get to a certain level of consciousness, we have to maintain that level of consciousness. And that was like, that statement alone. So what you're describing is that you
Yes.
have reached a level of, hold on, she's reaching for strawberries. You don't need them all over the floor, but you've continued to reach different levels of consciousness. And you became very, very aware of the thoughts that were pulling you back.
Yes.
And so you will continue to reevaluate those thoughts when they come up, because they will come up. Oh, I still have those thoughts, trust me. And I'm like, okay, that was a weird old thought. You know what I mean? So hold on one second. Ayana, you're not getting the whole package. You can have a strawberry. So, my goodness, of course, she's gotta go crazy. Come here. My goodness. She's just a bossy boss. So it's so great to hear. So with regard to the action that you took, I know I know one time I had messaged you, you said, oh, I was upstairs and I was exercising. So you had really implemented some movement in your.
Yeah. I think the thing that really worked for me was I was exercising, but I just wasn't losing weight. And when I recognized that I had this unhealthy relationship with food, or like you, I'm working, like at derby season, I'm working 16 hours a day. Well, I'm sewing, realizing I went all day and didn't eat.
Yeah.
So then I'm eating at 10 o'clock at night, like a hoarder, eating this and that because I'm starving. And then you sleep on that, and then that will cause acid reflux or weight gain. And I think, gosh, I'm exercising and I'm really not eating. Well, when I really brought the unconscious to the subconscious, I'm like, yeah, you're eating, but you're eating all your calories in a half an hour at 10 o'clock at night. And I wasn't eating enough protein, and the thing is, I still have to work that amount of time. So like, if I don't have time to have a meal, well, then I found great protein drinks that I can have, because protein for me was helping to control the weight, because I wasn't burning enough fat. I wasn't getting enough protein to burn the fat. So I'm like, okay, that works. And it's trial and error. What works for me might not work for another person, but I think it's when you sit down and you recognize your own importance, or maybe you meditate on it, or maybe you lay there for 10 minutes and think about, maybe you're not a list maker like my type A personality, but maybe you just have to take 10 minutes a day to think of yourself and go, okay, where was I at today? Where am I going to be? And recognizing the unhealthy relationships you have in your life, be it people or food or things, or getting rid of the toxins.
Yeah.
And you talked about that before a lot in your videos, is the toxic type of things that you can have in your life. And, that's recognizing that. And once you do that, you have to remind yourself, because the toxins just don't go away overnight, like we were talking about. You have to remind yourself, and you have to do that the rest of your life. It's not like once you recognize it, they're not going to pop up again. You'll have a bad day and you'll go, I'm not going to have that day again. Let me look at my list. What didn't I do yesterday that I should do today? It's always a constant checkup on yourself, because that's life.
I have to give you massive kudos because most people could not do this on their own. That they need a coach, they need the accountability of some sort. But there was something triggered in you that you were
Yeah.
just, I am so ready. And trust me, you're a type A entrepreneur, go getter.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it doesn't surprise me. But most of the world needs somebody to say, hey, these
Yeah.
are the to take, and so on and so forth. And so you described a lot of stress that you were putting on your body, which most people don't recognize, which this is a good time for me to share that I have a challenge that starts actually tomorrow in my Master Your Mindset and Metabolism group. And I'm going to teach about the basics of hormones and how it affects fat loss and weight loss. So if anybody would like to join that, I'll put the link in the comments, but it's just kellydunlap.com/challenge. And that's going to be super informative as well. But it's so cool that you were able to grasp a lot of this and take the information and move forward with it, which is really great. It's all about the action. When people look around, like there could be somebody looking at you going, how is she doing it? I'll tell you how she's doing it. It's called consistency, self-worth, and not giving up. Trial and error, right?
And I'll tell you too, it really helps having a good network of friends.
Yeah.
You have to have people that, well, you can say, hey, I'm struggling, or I'm going through this. And the more real you are with people, the deeper your friendships become too. You have to let your core group know, hey, listen, this is what I'm struggling with. And they'll say, okay, I'm struggling with this or that. And then you end up helping each other. And then you realize that you don't have to put on that face anymore.
Right.
Oh, I didn't realize you were struggling with that. Oh, I didn't realize you were struggling with that. And then you become each other's, comfort.
Yeah.
And then you have friendships that get you through it. Say, hey, you know what? I saw that you might be having a bad day. What can I do? And vice versa.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that come into play, but you have to put the work in.
Yeah.
You have to do it. This is not easy. It was not easy for me to lose these 38 pounds. There were days I cried. There were days I binged eat. There were days I hated myself. But you have to still love yourself enough to make those changes, and each day do a little bit more, and know and expect that you are going to have some bad days, but you're still going to power through it, because as your chart said, and because I'm a visual learner, I love your chart. I see that light, that each day I want that goal. And now, being the weight that I am and my blood pressure down, I feel like the pain was worth the reward.
Yeah.
So thank you, Kelly, for being real yourself and sharing your chart and your knowledge and your real life on your struggles, because it humanizes what people are going through, and you do an excellent job at that.
Thank you. Well, I sure appreciate it. I appreciate your taking the time to share this, because this right here is giving what's the inspiration to others as well, to say, okay, I can do that. And okay, and so hopefully today somebody will start making their lists, seeing their self-worth, and getting some value out of our conversation today. And one more thing that I want to add too is, you bring up your friends, and I want to tell you guys this. When you go through this kind of process of change, sometimes you're not always going to find that your friends are supportive. And this is why. It's because the way that you have shown up to them in the past. And then when you start to change, they kind of don't like it. And sometimes they can be a naysayer until you retrain them. So just having that awareness of the fact that when you do go through this process, some of that might come up, and you'll be very surprised, because sometimes those naysayers are the ones that are the closest to you. But just you have to remember that you have to own part of that as well, because it's all about how we showed up for so long, Okay, so just wanted to share that nugget. But yeah, if anybody would like to hop on to the challenge, you're more than welcome. There's room for you. There's room for everybody. Just go to kellydunlap.com/challenge. And if anybody is in the market for a beautiful hat, make sure that you reach out to Rachelle, because she is amazing. And so just, if there's anything that you want to share regarding that, please feel free. Do you have anything coming up, or are there any?
I thought I would be taking the summer off, but I have had events. I do, in addition to derby, I also do bridal. I do tea hats. I do hat making parties. So yeah, anybody can just contact me at any time. And I also do hat cleaning and hat repair, which is something that people have enjoyed as well. So
that's very good to know. Well,
thank you.
very cool. Well, listen, my beautiful friend, thank you once again. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for the time. And we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, great. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Okay.
Sunday. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.